Okay, let's talk about the Stranger Universe, the world where stranger things all happens. And this is going to include both Hawkins and the Upside Down. So first, let's understand the creators, which would be the Duffer Brothers. And these are two retro horror visionaries who managed to blend 80s nostalgia with cosmic trauma, and childhood innocence collides with this Lovecraftian level of dread. Now, their important works that you're going to know are going to be obviously Stranger Things itself from 2016 to now as a Netflix series, Beyond Stranger Things, which is a companion discussion, and then Stranger Things: The Suspicious Minds, which is a novel prequel which expands its MKUltra origins. Now, the core concept of this series is a small 80s American town that becomes a psychic battleground for the conscious and the subconscious world. The surface reality of Hawkins and its decayed mirror realm, the Upside Down. And every act of repression, grief, or cruelty in the real world echoes a physical horror in its dark twin. That's the symbolism there. Now, they have a complete power system of magic and science. And first, psionic energy, the mind network, which is derived from human consciousness. We're talking emotions, so fear, trauma, they act as emotional or energy currency. And certain individuals like 11 or Henry can tap into this psychic field, projecting thoughts, moving matter, and crossing dimensions. So power scales with emotional repression and pain. There's also the dimensional biology, understanding the Upside Down ecosystem. Now, the Upside Down operates as a hive mind, a fungal neural network belonging to the mind flayers that absorb and replicate life. It behaves like a living memory. It's invasive, viral, and telepathic. Then there's also the fringe science component of it, the MKUltra legacy, as it were. This is Cold War era experimentation which tore the initial rift between worlds. Government labs use tech amplifiers, sensory deprivation, electromagnetic resonance, and these things are used to exploit sonic energy, creating weaponized mediums out of these people. Now, there's a lot of sentient races and other notable creatures. Obviously, humans, who are emotionally fractured creatures and typically victims of the breach. Their psychological state determines the strength of the Upside Down. Then there's the Demogorgon, which is an apex predator that represents fear at a primal level and consumption. There are the Mind Flayer, which is a high consciousness, and it seeks to assimilate individuality into one core collective despair. Then there's Henry Creel, who's called Vecna. Now, he's a human who turned into a metaphysical parasite. He embodies the shadow self, the unacknowledged trauma of humanity. Then there are the Demo Bats and the Demo Dogs. These are subspecies extensions of the hive mind, animalistic conduits of this control. Now, the key locations that you're going to see is obviously going to be Hawkins, Indiana, which is a microcosm of Reagan-era America. It's idyllic, repressed, drowning in nostalgia. Beneath its small-town charm lies a lattice of governmental facilities, lies, and psychic scars. Then there's the Upside Down, a rotting psychic reflection. Then there's Hawkins National Laboratory, the epicenter of the dimensional research and human experimentation. This is a temple of science and sin wrapped into one. The Starcourt Mall, which is a monument for consumerism, literally, and it's a feeding ground for the Mind Flayers. They manifest through capitalism brought in by this facade, so they're all about that. Now, their level of technology, they're kind of an 80s retro, analog, cold world, military, science, fictional elements. You have CRT monitors, cassette deck, and psychic resonance chambers all coexist. A world where the Walkman meets weaponized technology. So they kind of merge these two a bit. Then there's the government and the social order. The US government and the lab systems operate as a scientific priesthood. They're controlling knowledge and memory. Secrecy, disinformation to keep the town compliant are their standard tools. Now, the society of Hawkins itself is kind of a strange thing. It's a suburban illusion of order. Families masking dysfunction, patriarchy, and emotional suppression. And then there's the kids, who is the party. This is a rebel network, and they're bound together by loyalty and friendship. And these are the only true resistance in this psychic decay. So they're very important. Now, culturally, religious-wise, and philosophy, there's really no religion or mythic systems that seem to dominate. Faith manifests itself through friendship, love, and music. And the real spirituality is the emotional connection, which is a literal exorcist power. Like Max's song ultimately saves her from Vecna. In terms of artistic or cultural trademarks, this is the 80s, and you see it all over the place. Arcade games, neon signs, D&D lore, 80s horror tropes, mixtapes, comic book analogies. This is the culture itself, and it's kind of become the coping mechanism. The key ideologies you need to remember are very consistent with the early 80s. Cold War paranoia, anti-authoritarian rebel, generational trauma, and the myth of American normalcy. Now, there's a loose timeline, but this is an ancient epoch. This unknown psychic field that persists there predates humanity. The Upside Down may be a universal subconscious layer, not just tied to this town. But what we do see is some tones of the mid-20th century. The MKUltra experiments at Hawkins' lab. This breached dimensions. Henry Creel becomes Vecna. So this is important. But in the modern era, we're seeing a repetitive incursions between these worlds escalate. The multiple gates open up as Hawkins itself starts to unravel. And historically, each generation denies its monsters until they actually end up devouring their own children. Now, the big things that we need to know is that a new rift opens not in Hawkins, but in someone's mind. The Upside Down learns to speak through dreams. So survivors of Hawkins are often seen as reflections of themselves in other worlds, sometimes refusing to come back. Music becomes weaponized, and certain songs themselves open dimensional gates. Now, the big takeaway is that Stranger Things isn't necessarily about monsters just invading. This is a reality revealing. This isn't just about monsters invading reality. It's about reality revealing the monsters that we hide inside. The Upside Down is our collective emotional landfill, and every gate is a tear in that emotional heart. The characters themselves are extremely interesting. You're going to have to know all about 11, or Jane Ives, or Elle, who is kind of the wounded god. She's presented as this divine child, this psychic messiah. Her core function is both as a weapon and a wound healer. The world literally bends to her trauma. Now, she was raised in isolation and shaped by experiments in these labs. So she is the byproduct of the government's obsession with control. Every surge of her power cost her emotionally. She's the bridge between the conscious and the subconscious realm. Her struggle isn't against monsters, it's against disconnection. Love reenacts her divinity, so she needs her friendships because that's her core. Now, Vecna, who is Henry Creel, or the One. He is the shadow incarnate, and he represents more of the fallen angel, or the Carl Jung would call it a shadow. Now, his core function is he's the other half of 11. He is her darkness externalized. He is a child of psychic potential who chose domination over empathy. He believes humanity is disease and seeks to purify it by merging all the minds into one upside down hive. His form is fused with Mind Flayer's energy, and it's the literal face of repressed pain. So when you see him, you're going to know. Hopper, or Jim Hopper, is the fallen father. Again, lost his daughter. He's a protector in exile, and he becomes like this redeemer warrior. His function really represents broken masculinity, finding redemption through guardianship. He's a cop who got numb by grief and addiction, and he finds meaning again in fathering 11. His arc is a cruciform. There's death, there's descent, and there's rebirth. He symbolically becomes the gatekeeper, guarding the threshold between worlds and morality. Then, of course, there's Joyce Byers, the faithful mother. Now, she's seen as the seer. Her function is as the emotional institute. She feels what logic denies. She felt her son while everything else was telling her he wasn't there. Her love for Will literally pulls him back across dimensions. And she embodies maternal faith as a metaphysical force. She is the world's spiritual antenna. And then there's Will, who himself is the marked child. He's the oracle, the vessel. He is a psychic barometer. His sensitivity keeps the party aware of unseen forces. His possession by the Mind Flayer permanently links him to this unside. His possession by the mind, Flayer, permanently links him to the upside down world. So he's got a unique connection that the others don't have. But he represents trauma survival. Still haunted, still connected to the darkness, but still human and fighting for their humanity. Now Mike is the heart. He's the knight. He's the devoted one. He is the emotional catalyst and the moral anchor of the group. Often dismissed as the normal kid, but he symbolizes belief, the unseen power that keeps the group unified. And his relationship with 11 represents love as a grounding force while all this chaos is going around. Max Mayfield, she's a survivor. She's the wounded rebel, like the Persephone of Hawkins. She personifies guilt and the fight for self-forgiveness. Her trauma makes her Vecna's prime target. He feeds on her grief. Now, her music, that Kate Bush's Running Uphill, becomes her lifetime, turning art into literal salvation. And she represents the modern feminine warrior, emotionally aware but not hardened by her loss. Now Dustin, my guy, this is the engineer of hope. He's kind of the trickster and inventor. He bridges science and the heart, and his curiosity is his ultimate resilience. He constantly redefines intelligence as empathy and improvisation, and he embraces that. He's mythically kind of cosmic relief, but he's mythically crucial. His joy keeps the psychic field from collapsing under despair, and we see him time and time again really represent that. Now Lucas Sinclair is the realist. He's the warrior pragmatist. He's grounded in the physical world. He always questions, he tests, and he verifies. Now he symbolizes the rational mind inside the dream. And his relationship with Max ties the idea of protective love versus powerless anger. Now Nancy Wheeler is the truth seeker. She's the investigator and she's the hunter. Her core functions are intelligence and agencies. She's Hawkins' conscious in motion. Her journalistic pursuit mirrors the audience's. She wants to see the unseen, and she symbolizes this intellectual rebellion against this collective denial that consumes everyone else. Steve Harrington. Now, this guy has had the biggest arc. He's kind of the redeemed fool. He's a guardian, he's a reluctant hero, and his main function is to show that evolution from ego to true empathy. He begins as a shallow high school king, but becomes a selfless protector. He's a symbol of growth through humility. He's arguably the human arc of the entire series. Then there's Dr. Martin Brenner, who is the false father. This is the manipulator of creation. He's the creator of gods. He's the destroyer of innocence. He represents science without a soul. He tries to build perfection, but always through suffering. His affection for 11 is toxic devotion. It's control disguised as care. Then Eddie Munson, the martyr of imagination. He's the outsider, the sacrificial dreamer. He represents misled youth, punished for being different. His love of fantasy and rebellion becomes his symbolic death. He's innocence killed by hysteria. His final act turns metal music into this divine courage. Now we've got a lot of other supporting characters that are also very interesting. Erica Sinclair, Lucas's sister, is the young rebel. Robin is the voice of authenticity, and she hangs on to that. Murray is the trickster mentor, and we see him. He's cynical wisdom, but he has real compassion. Argyle, the fool at peace, the comic stoner energy, the rare human who's unburdened by trauma, reminding us of the sincerity itself is power, just being normal. So every major Stranger Things character is an emotional law made human. 11's pain gives birth to worlds. Vecna's hate shapes him, and the party, this band of D&D kids, is the living spell that keeps humanity tethered to the light. An interesting series, and it has a lot of deep, meaningful characters, situations, and storylines. I'll break down each of the characters deeper as we get more and more into the new season, but hit me up in the comment section or any special topics that you want me to cover regarding the series.